Robo-Advisors is a big thing. It's in the headlines.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere. I'm at AT&T Park. I see Schwab Intelligent Investing behind
That
home
just
plate.
came out March of this year.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
The advisors that you meet with and talk to concerned about it? And before I even ask that question, is Robo anti-advisor? Because, well, first of all, let's talk Schwab's one, because Schwab is, right? Schwab is all about cut out the advisor, go to the Robo-Advisor. Is that not the principle of Robo-Advisor?
In my mind, I think you're talking two different concepts. So is it cutting out the individual wealth management advisor or the 401k plan advisor? Right. I think it can be supported by the 401k plan advisor if they're doing more of the fiduciary committee, the education, things like that. But the individual wealth advisor, yeah, they're aiming after people like us, saying, hey, we'll do your asset allocation, we'll do that work for you. You don't need to pay somebody 50 basis points to do it.
Are you saying that the Robo-Advisor in a 401k world is very similar to the managed accounts of the past and the current in a way? If you guys are familiar with the company Bloom, BLOOOM. Triple O. We're gonna talk about them. They're a robo in a way.
I think so.
Tied to 401k, but friendly to the advisor.
They're popping up all over the place.
So let's put a pin in that one, and let's welcome our audience to Retireholics, episode number 11.
Fingers are curved.
What do we do here?
You break
Throw a
one.
good fastball.
We changed the retirement plan industry one solo cerveza at a time, right?
Well, depending upon the day,
perhaps
could
we should
be
add a Corona after that
multiple
one too.
Like
dose.
every show.
Trace.
I'm gonna let Mr. Joe Chanson. I'm gonna let Mr. Joe Chanson introduce to us the beer of the episode.
We have from Missoula, Montana, Big Sky Brewing Co.
While you're doing that, I love that the phone's going off in the background after the director's like, everyone
Quiet down! Phones. No taking phone calls. Moose Drool, which is a brown ale. I thought it was interesting on the actual 6-pack holder. You've got to pour your own today, pal.
Oh, let me get mine while you do yours.
JD's mug today, too.
Ah.
You have to have a name for that.
It's just the master mug.
You should call that mug Liam Neeson.
This is made in
Didn't
Germany.
he fight wolves in a movie?
He did.
It's the Wolf
He
Pack
did.
mug.
Yeah.
What the heck was the name of that movie?
The
Got
Wild?
it ties to
No.
Retireholics.
It's a
The
different
Wilderness? Liam
All right.
This
Taken
on their
7.
box, it says "We make water fun," which I thought was the most interesting part of their beer. We make water fun, which is very true. We're taking water, we're making it fun. Cheers, selves.
Moose's Drool.
I thought this was actually Moose Drool.
Cheers to episode 11. All right, let's get back to what we're talking about with Bloom. So Bloom, as Mark
Is it,
said,
wait, is it
Triple O.
Bloom, or do you have to say it Bloom?
Sure about that. I didn't ask that
If
question.
anyone
when I
from
met with him.
Bloom is watching, we'd love to clarify that.
What is Bloom? Bloom, as far as I understand it, and what we're trying to talk about here for advisors, for industry professionals, is what kind of tech is out there, what kind of modern day tech that they should be aware of that, you know, maybe
Absolutely none.
they
There's
could
just
hitch,
nothing out there.
they could hitch their wagon to and potentially, you know, improve their service model they're offering. So what is Bloom?
Hey, you guys ever notice you all fold your legs, and I naturally want to do that, but I'm going rogue today. No folding of my legs. If I do, tell me. Go on.
Okay. It is, as far as I understand it, it's a participant-facing application where you literally sign up, you answer some risk tolerance questions, and I know this sounds freaky, but you give them your username and your password to your record keepers, whether that's Fidelity or Nationwide or Hancock or whatever, and they will do the rest. So they literally log into your account and manage your investments for you.
Well, I wouldn't say manage your investments. They manage your allocation.
I can't wait to get to the end of that. How are you going to drink
It's
that?
good in theory.
Right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. They're managing your allocation. They're not necessarily tactically managing your investments.
Because it's only what's available to you.
They are using the core menu of your wherever you're at to choose funds.
But they are saying, and it's on their website, that a majority of the plans that they're looking at for participants are managed incorrectly.
They're jacked
and
up
that
in some way.
They are fixing over 80% of those.
Why is that?
Because individuals invest with emotion. They don't know what they're doing. They need help.
They make poor decisions.
And we've all seen the charts that show which asset classes actually perform top to bottom in a given year, and it's about diversification. So I think if we're looking at the average plan and we're saying participants are failing at the way they're investing, it has to do with the fact that they're not diversifying, and probably just as important, they're not rebalancing accordingly. And that's what Bloom is saying, is you answer these questionnaire, we'll determine what your risk tolerance should be, we'll go into your core menu through your login, we will set up your investment allocation based upon the core menu, we will rebalance you quarterly, we will monitor it ongoing.
And I want to add, they're also very proud of the ongoing engagement campaign. So you'll also be getting emails in your inbox. They use a very kind of PDC-esque, like easy speak edutainment kind of flow, which I was actually kind of a fan of.
The humor that they come across, every little detail, every...
Did you see the stat that said, like, I'm making it up, like I usually do. It said, like, 80% of people who use Bloom will do better than if they use a Ouija board or a fortune. It was something really funny.
My favorite one was if they get fired.
Yeah. Did you sure you wanted to fire us?
Your new advisor.
You have
Do
a
you
bad
know who your
day,
new
make a
advisor
bad
is?
decision.
And it's a mirror, in case you're wondering.
there a
who
cost?
advises
Let me
yourself.
introduce you to your new advisor. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was a
It's
mirror. Is there a cost for this thing?
Yes.
It's
Kind
actually
of an interesting
very
little cost
affordable.
structure.
Very affordable.
under
Correct me if I'm
20,000
wrong,
was
yeah.
$1 a month, and over 20,000 was what,
15 a month.
$15
$15 a month. That's a
So
pretty
here's,
big gap.
let
but
me play
whatever.
devil's advocate, because you know that's what I like to do. Is this not an asset allocation fund? I mean, one could argue it's slightly tactical, but they're gonna create an allocation for you. They're going to invest the dollars through what they choose for you, and they're going to rebalance ongoing.
Like I said before, I don't know if they have some kind of secret sauce to their asset allocation. I'm assuming
asset
they don't.
allocation.
I'm assuming they don't. I didn't mean that they did. So yeah, no, I don't think it's much different than that.
Can I add one thing that I thought was just pretty cool, and it goes hand in hand with their name. We haven't even mentioned it yet, but the idea is you log in and you start this account, and more than likely, over 80% of the time, they use a flower to determine the health of your plan, right? And most of the time, knowing the statistics, the flower's dead, right? And they help you bring it back to life.
Yeah.
So as a very visual person
see that.
myself,
Cool.
I like that as you begin to invest more and your account's growing as it should, the flower comes back to life.
Okay.
How
So
attached
for
are
those
to
of
that
you-
flower? Like, damn it, I need that thing to
Right,
grow.
and it kind of makes you want to
kinda
make
like the
that
gamification
flower
thing.
grow again.
I don't want to spend too much time on this one
I think
tack.
it's a daffodil. A
But-
dandelion? I have no clue.
But I do want to bring a little drama to the situation, and I love the guys at Bloom, and what they're doing is really cool. But I asked the question. I said, "What happens when you log in to someone's account and they're in a target date fund?" Which you might argue is, prudent asset allocation. And they said, "We will take them out of the target date fund,
Really?
and we will reallocate based on our methodology," which makes sense to me, through the core menu. So I like to stir a little, once in a while. Do you think target date funds are fans of that approach?
No.
I don't think they
I
are.
wouldn't.
So
Yeah.
they might face some adversaries.
And it exists everywhere. I mean, many of these providers are offering a custom allocation model
Sure.
where advisors can go in and use different groups to create 10 different models, and then they use the core menu funds within those models, and a participant can pick a model and do it. It's that conversation's been there for a while, and of course those fund families, they're slightly okay with it because they might get a sliver of one of the funds in there.
True, if they have
But
funds
they're
in
not
core
getting the
menu.
full target date. As we've all seen, every single group that comes in here is touting their target date right now.
And let me back Bloom pushing for, the future or the revolution. It seems to me that proprietary funds and proprietary target dates are taking a lot of hits, right? And they may go away someday. I mean, with new open architectures, institutional share classes, those days are kind of starting
I
to
don't
end.
know.
So, anyway, not yet.
Conceptually,
Not yet,
perhaps,
But it's the writing's on the wall.
So
Eventually, it's gonna.
Let's ask us here, because it's going to tie into the next few. Would you use this on your K plan? We're in the financial industry. We might be a little different, but honestly, would you use this?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, especially if I'm an investor who does not know.
No, you personally,
No,
you.
I'm saying, yeah. I think it.
Can
it
I also,
definitely is
as an
interesting.
employer, would I offer it to my employees?
That was my next question. Would
I
you
would.
use it?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I would not.
And as an employer, I would be willing to roll this out to my employees.
And I think that's an interesting concept, because in my mind they're
tools are
doing
there.
something. And granted, it's $15 a month, but they're doing something that I would be getting.
He's got 20
For free.
plus in his account.
It's something that I would
I
be
would use
getting.
it 'cause it's only
and
$1
it's not
for
free.
me.
Forgive me. It's
$1
not
a month.
free. It's not free. But you can go to just about anywhere and get an allocation breakdown of what your spread should be between stocks and bonds and cash
Yeah, but
equivalents. and-
do you? And I know the answer is no here. Do you have the time to be doing that on a quarterly basis?
No, but you can set it up directly on the site. We won't say who
Can
our
we
plan's
caveat-
with,
can
but
we-
that can rebalance for you and do all that.
Can we caveat that Chad Johansson is Mr. Logical
Yeah,
and
Well, and controls
Probably
every
a
aspect of
descendant.
everything. Yeah.
descendant of Spock
But-
from
Guilty.
Star Trek? So
I think
mean,
it's important to note that
That's
this sort of tech and these sort of concepts and ideas, like obviously Bloom isn't the only one out there doing it.
Let's talk about iJoin,
they're
'cause I
great-
want-
well,
Yeah.
I want to
before
talk
we
about
get
one
to
more.
that, I'm just saying in this case they're really looking at the millennial generation and people who
For sure.
are just getting, in the Silicon Valley, these young guys and gals who are getting into the workforce and making good dollars that maybe they don't want to sit down with an advisor. Yes, they're still going to pay for that service, but they just want to be able to pop on their phone and do everything.
Well, and it also makes it so dang easy. I mean, think about people who don't. We think about automatic enrollment. People get into it just because they don't want to deal with it or say
Yeah.
no.
It's true, yeah.
Think of
It's
how
part of
much
that
easier it is.
process.
But
For
that's-
me,
They're not
especially for
paying
me, it's like, yeah,
attention.
dude, I don't have to pay attention. This thing can increase.
But
my
we'll
return.
have it offline. But my question for you would be, how is that different than a risk tolerance fund?
And I would say, because Bloom would say, it's not just about set it and forget it. It's about giving them asset allocation and then keeping them engaged as you go on. It's anyway,
Okay,
it's
so
different
that's-
ways.
That's the flower.
But let's talk about
There's a
iJoin.
flower, dude.
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to
flower.
grow the flower.
You do want to grow the flower.
I kill plants.
Let's
so-
talk about iJoin,
Okay.
which I think is at iJoinsolutions.com. A little different than this for sure. iJoin looks to me to be
There's
more.
no flower.
There's no flower. Looks to be more like an employee enrollment / education at that point. Like, hey, you shouldn't be doing 3%. You should be doing 8%, and you should be stepping it up every year. And then it moves on to give an element of gamification, we're told. And then even a flow of retirement readiness, right? Like, are you on track to get where you're going?
Can you please specify and define
Yeah.
gamification?
Gamification, for me, is
And I hope
something...
at this point our editor puts an actual definition below.
Here he goes again, doing his...
We actually kind of
strong-
Making life difficult for
Gamification for me is when you're involved in something, and I'm going to get hippie out and use my example of my meditation app I use. I get little awards and stars the more days in a row I do meditation. And I'm eager to get those little awards. It makes me feel good about myself. Sometimes I even win free things for staying dedicated. So that's gamification. Could you translate that into a retirement plan world? Absolutely. You upped your deferral for 2 years in a row. Way to go. Here's a star. Not a flower, but a star.
some tech.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about the retirement readiness part of it, because, and I want to be clear, the reason why we're talking about these types of solutions is for advisors to be able to up their game. And so if they can walk into a plan sponsor and say, not only do I do great fiduciary services, help you pick a core menu, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but I've also vetted out some of these really cool techs or applications that help employees really get on track to retire, aka retirement readiness. It's not a bad thing. I mean,
Not at all. And I think many of these groups are targeting advisors that have fairly decent sized books and or RIAs to say, hey, you can make this your own. You don't have to say I vetted out these different groups. You can say, hey, here's my process. This
Yeah,
is
part
what
of
I
your process.
use.
I
This
like
is
that.
how I
Tangible.
engage folks.
I like that.
And I think from a conceptual standpoint, these types of tools from an advisor's perspective, and I've been saying this for years. I sit with advisors all the time, and they say, how should I build my practice? And I talk about making it scalable. This makes it scalable, whether they're with Nationwide or Hancock or Fidelity or T. Rowe or anybody else, whoever they're with. If you have these types of tools and applications, then the way you service your client can be the same regardless of the type of record keeper they happen to be with. And I think that that's powerful. If you end up having 50 plans and you don't have to learn the fiduciary review tools from 19 different providers, and some are in, very we'll say out there, smaller dynamic type providers, this could be a big step for your book.
When you talk about being able to document the value that you provide to a plan, retirement readiness is that next space where advisors should be coming with metrics, coming with
What impact do you have?
with results. Like, look what's happened because of the work I've
Do you
done.
see? You guys see anybody doing that?
No.
And they should, right? That's going to be
But
the
I
thing.
mean, I get asked.
I see record keepers doing it, right?
Right.
I
But
promised I wasn't going
They're
to talk about
definitely
the...
talking about it. It's
Yeah.
out there. They have access to that sort of.
Those tools already, but these are different outlets and probably more customizable.
I made it a point not to talk about the Department of Labor fiduciary rules on this show since people but hey, if
Is
you're
that something that's happening right now? Because I keep getting this spam mail about it, 600 a day.
if you are a fiduciary, which pretty much every living human being is at this point, you need to document your services and your value for your reasonable fees. These things go to that.
is Bloom a fiduciary?
I don't think so. We can let us know, Bloom, if you're a fiduciary.
I think you're acting in a fiduciary capacity. I mean, you're picking
I
these
should know better.
specific investments that the participant is going to invest in, not just the allocation. I'd be curious to find that out.
Is
I'm
there
really
a
curious.
way that a participant could click a waiver and go around that by
Yes.
relinquishing them of those duties?
I would
Back
think
in-
so.
Well, that's another great
Now.
point. Like, what protection does the participant have?
Well, we're going back to
I told you
Bloom.
I
Like
should-
we're
I think
on
it's all of
iJoin,
this,
yeah.
this
Let's go.
tech,
No,
though.
no.
I think it
All right.
really is.
Third tech. It's been around a little while. They're doing some pretty funny
I
stuff in
like
terms of their
this stuff.
advertising. But so this is VWise, and VWise started off as enrollment education via video. So basically, they'd put good-looking actors in front of a camera.
I
And-
used to do it for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're
They
way
keep calling you.
Well,
way
you guys
better
called me to
looking
do
than
this show, so
and
you pay more.
and they'd be charismatic, and they'd talk in an easy, non-vendor speak type of way, and roll people through a really kind of engaging enrollment meeting. And you can customize it based on the provisions of the plan, whether there's safe harbor or a match or salary deferral only. So, anyways, they've started to branch into some other things, but let's just talk about the education piece.
Yeah.
Video enrollment education.
Not just enrollment, though, right?
Cool thing. Ongoing
It's
education.
ongoing.
Of course.
You can pick
of
different
course.
topics. I mean, I've
Asset
seen them blast me with
allocation,
emails, like asset allocation or
I'm
know,
gonna
market
quote
overviews.
their
and-
website. It is a retirement tour for your employees.
Okay. I'm
I
into
like that.
So it's a big deal.
Video enrollment and video education. Ongoing education. Good thing.
Great thing.
Is it? Let me ask you now. You guys are going to sell hundreds of retirement plans in this next year. How many of them are going to use a live education meeting in their cafeteria, so to speak?
The
99%.
majority.
99%.
Yeah.
That's the answer I was fishing for. Why are they not using these videos?
I think some are, not these in particular, but many of the providers have some sort of generic enrollment process that's videoed, and I think they're taking advantage of it. The advisors are taking advantage of the record keeper product, but they're still doing the in-person and perhaps giving that link to the plan sponsor to use for ongoing hires.
And I'm not.
But I still don't think enough are embracing it.
And I'm not anti-live education meeting. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great way, but it has some downsides to it. I mean, on the first hand, I think you mentioned earlier, kind of pre-show, it takes time, energy, and money from the plan sponsor, right? You got employees
Coordination.
that are not
You gotta
doing their
buy
job.
donuts and
Pizza,
sandwiches.
yeah, right.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. Don't say I support McDonald's. Jesus.
From the
I
vegetarian.
didn't eat any of it, but so there's that goes in. There's also the simple fact that those meetings typically happen once a year. What about all the people that are hired between those two meetings? They didn't get to go to that meeting, so they have to wait 10 months till the next one, or they only get a little enrollment book.
And in my mind, honestly, and I said I love VWise, and I really do. I love what I've seen so far. It's great on the initial enrollment. It's good for ongoing hires. But I think it's a great way for an advisor, if you embrace this, to, at the beginning of the year, set up your drip campaign to these participants, as well as HR, and say, hey, I'm going to send out 4 different videos this year. One's going to be on Roth inside a 401k plan. One's going to be on whatever the other topics might be. And now all of your clients, all of them, regardless of provider, are going to get this communication. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's an awesome way. We talked about advisors. You talk Robo-World pushing in on the investment and allocation side. This is a great way for an advisor to show part of their process in employee engagement. Here's my big negative, and this is not something I had thought about until right now. All of this education and enrollment and these videos, they don't tie to a specific product, which I was saying is a good thing for advisors.
They're snap-ons, yeah.
But so how do they leave that? Hey, go enroll. Click on your website and figure out how to do it. And now it's up to the participant to be like, oh, I got to log in, and where do I go, and how do I do this, and where does it get communicated to? And because it's not specific to any provider.
I bet you VWise does.
You think so?
Yeah.
Like, hey, so your plan's with Principal, so this is where you log in, and
they're
this
pretty
is what you
customized.
do.
Well, and they're saying they've
Bloom,
increased-
obviously,
yeah.
it's a moot point. Doesn't matter.
It's not about that.
But I join. I don't know. Maybe.
I'd be interested to find out if it were specific, because I would be excited. They'd probably get me motivated, and then when it comes to tactically doing that, let's be honest, we deal with a lot of those participants who are living their job and not focused on retirement, and they can't figure out how to enroll. They can't figure out how to get in the website. And
Well,
it's this long, drawn-out process.
To wrap up this segment and move on to exciting things like the Wheel of Ice and the Quiz of Death.
By
Which
the
is
way,
going to be fun
those
today.
videos are 24/7, 365. So it fits with our modern day world
For
of
sure,
people
yeah.
who work
Yeah.
nonstop. They can do it any time.
The takeaway from this segment for our audience is I just want our audience, advisors specifically, to know that, hey, stay tuned into what's out there. There's some neat things that you can latch on to your model, your solution, that can give you a leg up. And I think that's a good thing. So
It ties into everything else we've talked about. Build process, right? And this is a great way to build your process.
All right,
So
let's-
much out there.
let's rock and roll. The hand can bring in the Wheel of Ice, and we'll see how Mark fares this episode.
When Wheel of Ice comes out, I hear JD singing every time.
Oh,
Every
yeah,
time I
the
do.
Wheel of Ice.
Anything? Nope.
I would also like to bring the Quiz of Death over. If you could.
Same time, I know what the Quiz of Death is, and I just watched it shatter a pencil or a pen.
You got a lot more
So
cushion.
But what's the
you
actual?
have a lot more bone inside my finger.
There's,
Yeah,
you got a lot
there's
more.
a chance that you could win though and
Yeah.
not have to do it.
There is.
there is, and I should have not
Hey,
been
hey.
shocked.
So let's spin the wheel,
Yeah,
please.
last time.
Can we spin the wheel? Do we
Spin
have
it.
our Smirnoff?
Oh, we don't.
We do.
Oh,
We
there's
do.
none available. Oh.
But
There you
the
go.
hand, you gotta spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel, hand. I hope it's not me. I really don't want it to be me. Last time I pounded a Smirnoff Ice, it took like 4
It was
minutes.
bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
had
there
to
were
cut
no
out the
odds, and
recording.
it's Mark again.
It's Mark.
Marky!
Want me to open?
Yes.
I'm
Okay,
so
Mark.
excited for this.
It's
You know
you.
what? I'm not gonna kneel down today. I'm gonna.
You say it every
be
time.
careful.
No,
You
I-
end up kneeling usually.
And as you're kind of prepping for your Smirnoff Ice,
Well, if I ever get it opened
Let's
by
talk
our
about-
non-existent man over here.
let's talk about the Quiz of Death.
goodness.
I'm going to ask Chad Johansson a question relating to the new fiduciary rules that were
Oh,
released on
come
April
on.
6th. If he can correctly answer the question, I will put my finger in the mouse
Ooh,
trap.
I like this.
We have a mouse
That's a good
trap
little
here,
spin.
everybody. Be careful when you throw cameras in front of cameras, Brandon. One goes down. If you incorrectly answer the Quiz of Death question, you will put your finger in the mouse trap.
Fair.
Deal?
Fair.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna wait for you to start talking about the question so I could just.
The question is going to be around the new fiduciary rules, okay? So within the fiduciary rules, there is an area dedicated to investment education versus advice, okay? And to quote a John Hancock piece here, it says that it allows for general participant investment education similar to that was previously allowed, because you could do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Education versus advice. Under what? And it's an interpretive bulletin. Do you know the number of the interpretive bulletin?
Absolutely not.
You don't?
No.
I think I might have got this one right had you asked me. Okay, it's 96-1. It's right there. Didn't you study for the damn? what
Yeah,
was it?
because I knew what questions
Go
were going to
ahead.
be
Put your
asked.
finger in the thing.
Well, hold on.
Careful, it's sensitive.
Cat.
Go. Go.
It's in one piece. It's in one piece.
You right there?
It's gonna bruise. I can feel the blood
It
coming
already
through
looks
right
like
now.
it on the side over here. Look at that.
I suggest you study up on your.
Chad, I
fiduciary
thought you were
rules.
lactose intolerant. Don't go for the
Codes?
cheese, buddy.
Codes?
96
Come on.
1.
Ask for interpretations, not codes.
96
Put your finger in here, JD.
Would you have got that?
No, thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Now, did we get our Smirnoff down?
No. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even. That's how good Mark is, Mr. Smirnoff. We're gonna move on to hashtag
Not your typical
advisor.
advisor.
Very good.
I didn't know that
Very
was
good,
getting
Mark.
brought over to me for
Um,
like an
I was thinking you were just gonna go
intro.
not your typical. I thought that's.
So, I
We
wrote a
should've
recent.
done
I wrote a recent blog post, self promotion, 401k.com, FOUR01k.com.
Yeah, if
And-
you want to see a picture of JD in the water, like
sexy.
dripping water off
Can
his
you stop
beard,
slowing down our
with
progress with your
tight
your
shirt wrapped against his
inserts?
stomach, looking out towards the
Wow,
abyss.
you spent a lot.
You
too
spent
much
some time looking at this
It's
photo.
the wallpaper on my computer at home.
I want to talk in that article or that post. I talk a bit about advisors showing that they get. I'm going to say it. That they get shit done, and if they can do
Bleep.
that, they can win a lot of new plans. And I kind of got this from you, believe it or not. You told me that advisors need to go in and show tangible stuff, as opposed to just talking about what they do and how cool they are, what service they provide. Show what they do. And so I want to kind of talk a bit more about that or help our advisors, because that's what Not Your Typical Advisor is about. It's about upping your game, right?
Yeah.
And making it solid. So what are some ideas around showing or proving how you impact the plan or how you create results within a 401k plan? Ideas, concepts, what's a typical one?
Utilizing tools like we.
I was gonna say. what
It
we
just lines
talked
up
about.
perfectly
Yeah.
with those texts that we
So-
talked about. Yeah.
Retirement readiness is something that's been kicked around for a couple years now. What does that mean in terms of proof? Are advisors going to clients at review meetings and showing them progress of retirement readiness? Are they saying, here are your participants last year, here where they were, here's where they were on track to the retirement, here's where they are now, look at the improvement. Is that happening?
It is
Oh.
a bit, and there's different ways to quantify it. And most of the time, honestly, it's not advisors that's doing it; it's record keepers.
Have created
When you
the
look
tools.
at their annual contract reviews, their fiduciary reviews, and I had an advisor actually present one to an existing client, even though they were entertaining a move to a new provider, showing that, hey, I came in June of last year and I did education. The year before, we had 86 pings on the website because the provider shows this. 86 times the website was accessed. Of those 86, like 50 of them were to look at your balance. And then the coming year, when she did her education, there was like 194 times they accessed. And 80 of them were still to look at balances or so, but a bunch of them were to readjust their allocation and to increase deferral rates. And so she was able to quantify the efforts that I made in those education meetings, those one-on-ones, led to more interaction, people being involved within the plan.
That's a great example of a simple first step, just that interaction. I think next step would be to show some type of statistics or methodology in terms of their account balances and where they are and track their retirement. Another one that I want, go ahead.
I think a lot of people are looking at deferral rates, Judy. I think many are saying my goal, because I can't control the market, and in terms of retirement, getting people closer to being retirement ready, limiting the gap that there might be between what they've saved and what they need. But many are saying, because I can't predict the market, what I want to focus in on is deferrals. I want to increase participation and up the deferrals for people, and I want to get them involved earlier.
I think that's a great first step and a better than doing nothing, but I would argue with you that the next evolution of that would be the reality of my retirement readiness. So, and yes, looking at my investments, maybe my investments have been too conservative for a little while, and depending upon what has happened with the markets, I need to change my game because I'm not going to cross the finish line when I should. And so, but I agree that getting deferrals up is obviously the first step. One other thing I wanted to bring up, or one of many other things, is I'd like to see advisors start to document the things they do more. If you get calls from participants in the middle of the day, in the evening, on a weekend, and you support them with their questions, I would say make notes of that. Write that down. Document it. If you're working with human resources to solve a problem, I mean, in the real world, how many times are we working with advisors on client issues of some kind or another? It happens quite often, right?
Right.
Document that. Why am I saying this? I think an advisor should go into a fiduciary review meeting and not only review the funds, review retirement readiness, talk about fees and things. They should say, hey, let me show you what I've done for you in the past 12 months, past 6 months, past 3 months. Let me show you how many times I've worked with the employees. Let me show you how many times I've worked with HR or payroll or you, the fiduciaries. I think that would be a good thing.
And going beyond that too, right? Education within the industry. How many events did I attend? What did I learn? Did I drip on you?
Did you read my freaking notes? That was my next one.
Oh, see, I'm jumping ahead of you.
Yeah. Document your industry conference attendance and study time or new licensing and awards. You read that.
Oh, wow. Licensing and awards. You're going.
Yeah, I mean,
another
if you
step.
got an award, you should let them know, right?
On that same topic, and this was part of your write-up, I have an advisor, and she's fantastic. She's doing a really, really great job, who I watched a first meeting presentation of hers. And often, a lot of the conversation gets turned over to us in first meeting presentations because it's about
It's okay.
design.
We
and
have
different
children
pieces.
at the office. That's how friendly we are here. Sorry, go on.
And she walked in, and about halfway through the
There's some dogs
conversation, she
running
was
around,
asking
too.
some questions about employee engagement and fiduciary reviews. And she found the perfect time. You know what she did? She said across the table her service agreement.
Yep.
And her exact words, it was awesome to watch live in color, was, hey, these are the things you're paying your current advisor for that you're not getting. And this is what I do. And here's a documented process of what I do. And she gathered some of the pieces from our 401k Academy site in terms of the agreements themselves. And she was able to tangibly show the client, this is how many education meetings I do. This is what I will come in on a fiduciary review status. This is how I help with initial investment selection. And they both signed it. And I can tell you the look on the client's face. And we were in with a board. So there's five people, one employee in on this meeting. They were loving it. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. Like, okay, we've heard this story before, but you're proving this is what you do. It's written down. So we've been saying it for years, but you talk about differentiating yourself. There you go. That's a great way to do it.
I was just, like you just said, and just to back you up, I was talking about, go in and show your current client all the things. Take all the stuff you're doing for your current clients and show them to the ones that you want to win.
Right.
I mean, that's
where
awesome,
our mind is usually on the sales side.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But that's a perfect example. Anything else that an advisor can do to show what's going on? What they're accomplishing or what separates them. Don't go stale on me.
Well, so, the hard part is what you have written down there most has to do with existing clients. And I'm thinking when you're stepping into a point of sale, what do you need to do to show them you're different?
I'm not
to
a
increase your
I'm not
model.
a huge
Yeah,
no,
Nice toss.
I'm not a huge sell on low cost stuff, but if you've gotten client savings, right? You've moved them from one vendor to another, or you've found prospects in the past where their fees were out of whack where they should be, and you've able to show them products that lowered their fees. You could show them those types of results.
I think,
Make some types of
As long
claims.
as you're increasing their value,
Yeah,
and
thank
what
you.
they're getting, I don't think selling.
I'm saying you can
for
show your
fees is a
efforts.
bad idea.
You show your efforts.
No, and we had this conversation in our sales meeting this morning when we all sat down, that there are different ways to quantify fees and the impact of
Right.
fees. And we saw some neat tools that different providers are using to say, hey, if your plan is 20 basis points more expensive, what kind of impact will that have on the total retirement accounts over the course of a 10-year period? And an advisor can use that in perhaps even showing after a fiduciary meeting and getting a concession on cost, going into a client and saying, hey, look, I got a 20 basis point
Mom's
concession.
dragging the kid out of the office now.
I got a 20 basis point concession for our cost by us doing this fiduciary, this kind of RFP,
Right.
and this is the kind of impact that it's going to have on the participants. So good job, committee, way to go. Look
Yep.
at what we've accomplished.
Yep.
There are tools like that out there.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway there.
Well, I think I would add one more piece. Obviously, we're leaving out self-promotion here. What could advisors do? Is work with us. Obviously.
Mark's always going.
Well,
Do you realize that on this show, one of the rules is we're not supposed to self-promote
Oh.
all the time?
so work with the TPA that has a potentially groundbreaking webisode series that rhymes with Schmeier Schmolix. Utilize their knowledge and abilities. Bring us in. Also, going forward with that too, is you talk about scalable business practices. Is utilize record keepers. Find
Yeah,
a couple.
for sure.
Don't have 7 and 8 that you're having to do. Use a couple. Get to know the local wholesalers that we even partner with and work with that can make your life easier just the same way we do.
Yeah.
So leverage partners. In addition, leverage the tech that's available. Show differentiation.
That's a good wrap up.
and start winning new business.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
think
wrap
there's
to
plenty
that.
of opportunity there.
So let's wrap it up and touch on a few things. One, I don't know. I'm assuming by this episode that the beer of the month contest is still on. We'll see. So will we say the first 50 people to comment on what beer they think would go best on Retireholics? And when I say comment on, it was at the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page, right? Either he doesn't remember. Yeah, it's at Facebook or
Well, we haven't
LinkedIn.
released that
You can go
yet.
back. You can go because
Was it?
you're going to confuse our audience.
Was it
We
just
haven't
their, It was
released.
just their favorite beer, though, right? Was it?
It's their favorite beer they'd like to
Beer
see
that
on
we
the
should
episode.
try.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should try on the episode. If you need to go check the rules, go check episode 9. I talk about it first there. So do that if you haven't done that already. I do want to. This isn't self-promotion. I do want to thank. We've gotten a huge outpour of audience
you.
people.
Thank
I
you
mean,
so
we
much.
have got people left and right now reaching out, telling how they love the show and how they can't wait for future episodes,
Yeah.
how they get the whole concept. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I think that that's really cool. Please
Thank you.
keep doing it. Probably
we
future
do love the
episodes.
interaction.
We should start mentioning some people's names in the future, so we'll figure out the best way to do that. We will be filming live at
yeah.
the Northern California Retirement Plan Invitational. I think that's the name
It
of
is.
the
It
thing.
is.
I think there's like 4 more words in there.
Yeah, it's a
The 4th annual.
So
Northern
we will
California
be doing-
Cinco de Mayo.
Invitational.
now on Cinco de Mayo. We'll be doing our second outdoors. I said filming
I
live.
don't think
but
Freeholey will be able to be there.
be there.
Yeah.
So that's coming up. And I say this, but I'm going to keep saying it. Social media, man. Check us out. There are Retireholics accounts at Instagram, at LinkedIn, at Facebook, on Twitter. And get out there and check it out. MySpace. And MySpace.
Does that exist
That's
anymore?
I'm going to create one when I
Tinder.
leave here right now.
Swag.
And with
And
that, we are out. The Retireholics. Changing the retirement plan industry one beer at a time.
You don't need lights at night. You can just
Then
sleep.
turn it off and live your life.
Okay.
That's got lights in it.
Okay.
Do you
Right?
want to
Turn everything off that has a light.
Okay, I will.
And try to live your life.
Bane didn't need
Right
lights.
Where's your phone?
It's right there.
That's got lights in it.
Born in the
But it's
dark.
not on. Batman.
Right.
Molded.
Guess what?
Because
Molded
it's
by.
got lights in it.
Your phone's now
Oh
mine.
my God! Give me my phone.
Oh. Turn off the TV.
Okay, where's the remote?
Turn it off.
I'm fine.
Yeah, you are.
I am. I'm gonna go.
I'm fine.
You got, Gab, you gotta
Ah,
go.
sucks.
Mark, you gotta go unplug the Christmas
I'm
tree
not.
over there.
That's too scary.